When I was 10 years old, my parents got divorced. This was a huge blow for a child. I decided to live with my mom because I knew she needed my company more than anything else. My mom was a lover of life and she was always able to bring joy to people. She loved the outdoors so much that she often took my brother and me hiking or swimming at the beach. One time, we decided to go swimming at the beach. This time, Mom brought along her date. He was a middle-aged man who looked very clean. He had short blonde hair and wore a blue bathing suit. Although he wasn't really tall, he had a great air about him. When we arrived at the beach, there seemed to be no other tourists around and the whole beach was very quiet. The breeze was blowing from the sea, giving a very comfortable feeling. We played on the beach for a while, and I decided to play in the shallows. Mom was watching us from a short distance away. The sea water was up to my thighs. I turned my head and asked my mom if I could go deeper to play. Mom smiled and nodded and said, "Yes, but you need to be careful not to swim too far." I nodded and started to go deeper. The water became deeper and deeper, and I started to feel a little nervous. As I swam deeper into the water, a strong current was pulling me deeper into the ocean. My body started to get out of control. I tried hard to keep my balance, but the current was too strong. I felt like I was trapped in a washing machine, being pushed and tumbled round and round by the current. The current was getting stronger and stronger, carrying me deeper to the bottom. I didn't know what to do to escape. I felt my body gradually sinking to the bottom of the sea. I wanted to scream for help, but my mouth was already filled with seawater. I could feel that my life was passing a little. My body was getting weaker and weaker, and eventually I lost consciousness. Next, something strange happened. My soul seemed to have separated from my body. I was floating above my body. About 1 floor above the sea level. My consciousness became very clear, and my vision became so open that I could see everything around me. I now had no shape and no color, just like air. I saw my body floating in the seawater, like a toy that had lost its life. It was strange to see this scene because I knew that my body was dead, but my consciousness still existed. My consciousness was no longer confined within my body, and I felt freer than ever. I was no longer limited to time and space, but had an infinite sense of existence. I can move my soul at will, I have unlimited freedom and energy, and this feeling makes me feel incredibly happy. Here, I did not see any tunnel, nor did I see any other soul. A force suddenly pulled me to move upward. As I entered the cloud layer, my ascent became faster and faster. I felt liberated by my spirit. Eventually, I reached my destination. I knew this was heaven. Everything here made me feel very excited. I was shocked by the sights I saw. It was a place of radiant light. I saw all kinds of strange creatures that looked like they were from another world. This place also has all kinds of wonderful buildings and landscapes, which look beautiful and mysterious. Here, I remembered a lot of things from the past. This is the place where I was born. Suddenly I heard someone talking to me. "You are right, this is your home. All souls are born here." I knew that voice was the voice of Jesus. In that moment, I was surrounded by his love. Jesus said, "Welcome home, my child. I know you have many questions, and I will help you answer them." I looked at him with some confusion and then began to ask any question that came to my mind. "Will I ever get married?" I asked. Jesus smiled and replied, yes, you will meet a nice girl after you graduate from college. I asked again, is it true about Satan? Jesus replied, yes, Satan exists, but his power is not unlimited. He will only have an effect on you when you are vulnerable. I nodded and I asked again. So, when will the war between God and Satan end? Jesus answered, God has already won the war. God will always be the victor. When I heard this, my heart was filled with faith and strength. Do you want to see your past life? Jesus asked. I was very curious. So I said to Jesus, sure, show me the old me quickly. Suddenly, I felt as if I had traveled through time and space. I found myself sitting in an old room. I found myself wearing an old-fashioned suit of clothes and the room had a very dreary atmosphere. I gazed at my hands and noticed that they were full of dirt and my skin was very rough. They seemed to have been worked on for a long time. I realized who I was. I was a medieval peasant, living in a humble and poor environment. In my first reincarnation, I was bitten by a poisonous snake while I was working in the field. I saw my thin body lying on the grass, surrounded by some villagers. They tried to help me, but without success. In my second reincarnation, I appeared in a prosperous ancient empire. I was a young scholar who was reading and studying in a library. I was studying ancient culture and history. I was gifted and soon became a respected scholar. However, I saw myself caught up in a political crisis. I was forced to leave my home and go into hiding in a small town. There, I spent the rest of my life. I continued to explore my past lives. In my third reincarnation, I lived in 17th century Europe. I was a female doctor. Women doctors were not very common at that time. I achieved a high status and reputation at that time and was respected and loved by many people. However, my profession made me a target of extremist groups. They accused me of being a witch and burned me on a pole. This scene shook me to the core as to why such a thing could happen. Jesus told me that it was because there were still many inequalities and prejudices in society back then. He said that even today, we still need to fight for true equality and justice. I was greatly enlightened and Jesus helped me to understand life and humanity more deeply. Later Jesus took me to a room. This room was very spacious and bright. And there were many books and artifacts in it. I felt as if I had entered a mysterious museum. Jesus told me that this library holds the memories and history of all souls. He walked me through the bookshelves and introduced me to many mysteries. I saw many interesting historical scenes, including the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, the knights of the Middle Ages, and some earlier civilizations. Jesus told me that each soul has a unique history and story to tell. I asked Jesus if our souls exist for a purpose. He told me that each soul has its own mission and purpose. Some souls have been given a mission to teach and enlighten. Some exist to help others. Still others exist for their own growth and learning. No matter what the goal is, each soul has its own meaning and value. It was at this time that I suddenly heard a familiar voice, the cry of my mother. Her voice was full of fear and anxiety. Jesus said to me, "It's time to make a choice. Do you choose to enter the next life, or do you want to return to your present life?" Jesus waited quietly for my answer. I took a deep breath and then answered, "I want to go back to my present life, I still have a lot to accomplish." Jesus nodded, smiled, and said, "Okay, I respect the decision you have made. Go back to your life, take each day as it comes, and cherish each one. Then, Jesus waved goodbye to me. Slowly, everything in front of me disappeared. My mom was still screaming my name, her eyes filled with tears and despair. I immediately realized that I had to go back into my body. I began to slowly float downward until I re-entered my body. By this time, my heart was beating again and I was once again connected to my body. I plunged my fingers into the sand and crawled blindly under the water. I tried to stay calm, but I felt disoriented. Suddenly, the waves began to recede. I stuck my head out of the water. I saw my mom not far away and she helped me up. Mom didn't scold me, she just kept reassuring me. I lay on the beach and began to cry uncontrollably. My heart was touched in a way that is indescribable. This experience of being close to death made me appreciate life even more. It is a fact that there is life after death. After experiencing this event, I have a whole new perspective on life. I understood that death is not the end of life, but a new beginning. When I saw my past lives, I realized that human life is short and precious. Each person has his or her own mission and goal. We should not just live to satisfy our desires, but to explore our potential and then fulfill our mission. We should cherish every moment in life, whether it is happy or painful. Because these moments are opportunities for us to grow. I believe more than ever in the existence of the soul and the possibility of reincarnation.